Hey everybody, it's Strict9 with Strict9 GP, and welcome back to another episode of my Out of the Park 21 playthrough with the Cubs. Finished up the off season. We are day one of spring training, which is what I'm hoping to go through this episode and get an idea of who's going to be our starting lineup, rotation, that kind of thing. But I wanted to start off just kind of recapping the off season. And I'm going to do that. This is something I've used in previous versions and previous playthroughs to kind of show how our offseason went. And I don't know that I've done it so far with this Cubs team, but it's worth doing today because if you look at offseason summary by team, and then you have it sorted here by wins above replacement gained, we are tops when it comes to the offseason that we had. The closest team to us is 4 wins above replacement below. So, what that means in real terms, it's hard to say, but I think just in terms of the overall picture of how our offseason was, I think that's very positive. And maybe we're about to turn this team around. That's what I'm hoping. And I'll just scroll down here and let you look at how those calculations were made. I mean, on the players we lost, we got rid of 3 guys who were negative for us. Albert Almora Jr. may have been the best of those players we got rid of, but he just 2 years ago, 2020, he had an all-star start to this season, but since then he's really been cold, not that great of a player. So I don't think that was a big deal. And that salary he's getting, $8.4 million, that was way too much. He was mainly going to be a bench player, I think. I think he was probably going to platoon at the most, and he's only rated at center. So getting rid of him, I don't think was that big of a deal. And then the other 2 guys I got rid of didn't have a whole lot of impact on the team. Joe Kelly was a bust. I guess maybe he's, he re-signed, for instance, with the Dodgers at $3.36 million. I mean, that's kind of where I see him. He was on an option year with us of something like $12 million, so there was no way I was going to pay him that. But then the players we gained, if you've been following along, you'll know the big one, Noah Syndergaard, probably the biggest free agent signing you'll see me make. A lot of money we put into this guy, but we have the money. I think he's the kind of pitcher that he's still in his prime. I think he can really just front this rotation for at least the next 3-4 years. And he's coming off arguably his best year. Strikeouts were down, but he led the league in starts, innings, had 19 wins. I would love to get that from him this year. And then outside of him, we picked up Miguel Rojas. You may have seen that in the last episode. Not a big signing, but I think this guy with his defense and his contact rating, avoiding Ks, those kind of things, I think he's going to be serviceable at shortstop. And we were really struggling after losing Baez, trading him away last year. And then we picked up Ernie Clement, who's going to be a bench player, can play second, third, short. I really like what he brings to the team. I think he's going to be probably an important player if he stays healthy. We got him in a trade with Cleveland. I think we traded Almora. That's who we traded away to get him. And then we picked up this international free agent pitcher to kind of give our bullpen a little bit of depth. He's a 4-star pitcher with 75 stuff. I think he's got two pitches that are rated about as high as you can get. I foresee him being mostly set up, but we'll see. OSA thinks he's rated pretty much the same, maybe not as good control-wise. And then I got a couple more that I picked up. No, just one. And this is the one I picked up after the last episode. When I lost Almora, which, again, that wasn't a big loss, but I was kind of looking for depth in the outfield, was probably going to go with some kind of platoon situation at center. But then I kept looking at the free agents, and Inciarte was a still out there late in the offseason. And this guy, I still feel like, he's got a lot that he brings to the table. Great contact, gap power, avoiding Ks. His batting ratings are really good. He can play 3 positions. He's really strong in that. He's a Gold Glove award winner 3 times. I don't know what's really happened to him at Atlanta. No injuries that show up here, so he must have just been relegated to mainly the bench. And I don't think he's really even a 2.5 star player. I think he's worth starting. He's a fan favorite. That helped when I pick him up. That boosted our fan interest a little bit. And you can see, I think in some ways, OSA has him rated a little bit better. He's green for what it's worth in 4 of the 5 ratings. But he's going to get at least against righties and potentially against lefties as well. He's going to be the starting center fielder. So just came out of nowhere really to pick this guy up. Got him in a great contract, just a year. Depending on how he goes this year and what kind of makeup we have going into next year, he might wind up being somebody that I try to re-sign. But that's how we're looking in terms of the signings and the offseason. I'm pretty pleased with that. I know it's primarily Noah Syndergaard who's going to plays into that wins above replacement game gained, but that's a pretty solid offseason, I think, for me. And we still, I know I talked about this last episode too, but I'm not used to playing too many playthroughs in out of the park baseball with these kind of budgets. This is huge. I mean, I know it's only 10th in the major leagues, so there are teams who have more, but we still have $34 million left if we get into some injury problems and if there's a few players available to fill some holes that we develop over the course of the season. And that's something too. I wasn't too happy with that free agent class going into the offseason. I know I talked about that last episode too. We had $80-something million to play with, and it looked like, for the most part, on the offensive side, the best players were topping out at like 3 stars. So you take that into play. When I look at the players that we picked up and the money that we still have left, I'm really happy with that offseason. I hope it's going to make a big difference. Our owner has actually been really generous with us. He's tolerant. He's an economizer. So even though with that big budget, I guess he's pretty happy with the balances we have. And I was able to, one of the goals he had for this year was to acquire a Gold Glove winner. Inciarte took care of that for me. I don't know why he's saying that we need to upgrade after the Rojas signing, but hopefully if Rojas plays good, that'll satisfy him. But he's only wanting us to play close to 500 ball. I think we're going to be able to do that. I think attendance is probably going to go up too, just from the signings and the type players that we signed. So let's go ahead and start playing out or simming out the spring training, and we're going to look at the pitching staff first, and we're loaded in terms of the amount of pitchers we're going to have to look at. This is going to be whittled down to 13 going into the start of the season. Looks like we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18 pitchers that we got to take a look at here. If you look at them by ratings, there are going to be some who are probably not going to make it right off the bat, like Wyatt Short, Trevor McGill, Alec Mills. But the bullpen is really deep again. I mean, we got 4-star, 4.5, 4, 4, 4.5 with Austin Adams. I'm hoping he's going to have a little bit better run than he did when we picked him up last year. He's going to be the closer. You've got Syndergaard, Darvish, Hendricks, Honeywell, 3 stars and above for those first 4 spots, and then I'm going to be looking at Jack Patterson, Corey Abbott for the 5th one. And honestly, I'm kind of hoping that it's going to be Patterson who looks the best in the spring, because I really I want a lefty starter, and even though his ratings aren't that great against lefties actually, but I'm hoping that he'll be the one who wins that 5th spot in or in the spring training. Even though Corey Abbott did look good at times last year, his ratings are just not there. I don't know why. Even with OSA, he's just a 2-star pitcher. He may want to be one of those guys who's going to be odd man out as well, and he might go back to AAA this year. But overall, I think that's a good-looking pitching staff. On the lineup side, we'll look at batting ratings. This is where it gets a little bit, I don't know, I guess close in terms of the amount of players I have and who's going to go up, who's going to stay up and be sent down. I think it's going to be 15 players we're looking at. 15 players for 13 spots. So my guess is Clement is going to be backing up. You can see here it's going to be Horner. I'm going to let him start at second. Clement's going to get some time in the spring, but there might be more of a platoon situation in the regular season as well. Clement, especially against lefties, is really good. 60 contact. And then Rojas, I think he's going to own the shortstop position outright just because of his defense. So Clement, I'm starting him like every 5 games or so in the spring, but I think Rojas is going to be, barring injury, he's going to be easily the shortstop for the most of the season. In the outfield, I do like that NCRT pickup, especially against righties, and he's going to be righty and lefty, he's going to be the starter in the spring. He's going to lead off against right-handed pitchers, but I'm going to bat him lower in the order against lefties. The big thing is going to be who's going to play right, because Brennan Davis came up last season in September. He's probably my best offensive prospect, and he looked really good in that September call-up. I think he's the right fielder of the future for this club, even though he's rated a little bit better at left field. So I think the way his ratings are, he's a little bit better against lefties. I'm going with Hazley against right-handed pitchers, and then Davis against lefties. Hayward is definitely the odd man out. He's going to get some time against right-handed pitchers, probably be in a little bit of a platoon situation. I think I'm going to use him as the DH when it comes to against right-handed pitchers, if we're playing on the road against American League teams. But I'm just going to have to ride out his contract. Can't get rid of him. And with one more season left after this one, if Davis takes over and has a good year this year, it might be time for me to release Hayward at the end of the season. I don't really have too many people, I don't think. Yeah, AAA is really sparse. Even really, I think until you get down into the lower levels, like got a couple good guys here at high A who might develop into starters in the outfield. Here's a left fielder, 2.5-star potential. He might, if he gets some good development in the minors over the next couple years, but I don't have a whole lot of outfielders really working the way up the system. But that's going to be the lineups. I'm going to go ahead and send this offline, and then I'll come back and we'll take a look at how the spring went and maybe narrow down the starting rotation, and starting lineup. So I'll be right back. All right, so we're back. That was pretty, knock on wood, pretty painless. No major injuries throughout that whole spring. Incredible, really, that happened. But all things considered, I think we had a good spring. Finished 15-13. There was a time there when we were kind of challenging St. Louis for the lead in the Central, but they ran away with it towards the end. They look like a juggernaut, and I guess they should be when you think about it. Real Muto, Mookie Betts, Dylan Carlson, Suarez. Gosh, Goldschmidt probably coming to the end of his career, but still. Harrison Bader, a great defensive center fielder. Colton Wong, pretty good. His ratings are good in this game. They're going to be, I would say, the odds-on favorites to win the division, but still, I'm happy with the winning record. In terms of individually how we did, I'm going to take a look at the lineups first. So we're going to have a couple of moves we're going to have to make here, and I guess we're going to go with 5 outfielders. That's typically what I like to do. Brennan Davis got hurt there towards the end, but I think by the time season rolls around, he should be okay. He had a great spring, really did, and I feel like he's really making me think that he's going to be, he's just 22. He's really making me think that he's going to be full-time starter either at left or right next season, if not sooner. But NCRT looked good as well. 3 home runs. I didn't expect that. Hazley looked good. Happ looked really good. 6 homers, 17 RBIs. So the outfield is set. The only one who didn't look good was Ian Miller, and I didn't expect him to. He's just a 2-star player. He gives you good speed and defense, but he's not going to really be a factor. So I'm going to send him back to Iowa. And then now that leaves me with one more player to send down, and I'm a little torn here. Segura looked great at third. Rojas looked good at short. Clement looked really good. Those are set. But the big question is going to be: is it going to be Zach Short, Taylor Walls? All right, Taylor Walls played quite a bit of time last year for us. He can play second and short, and then Zach Short can play second and short. He didn't look that great when he was up. I mean, I guess going by, the ratings and everything, I'm probably going to let it be Taylor Walls. And that's going to fix everything, I think, for the lineup side. I tell you, I'm going to have a dilemma here, too. I think Amaya is ready to go as a starter. He's 3.5 stars overall and potential from my scout and OSA. I really think this guy is the starting catcher, or deserves to be on this team. Caratini is rated just a little bit better in contact and gap power. He's a good defenseman. I really don't know how it's going to shape up, but it could be a situation where Amaya takes over, and then Rizzo, who his ratings are solid against lefties, but I could see maybe platooning him with Caratini at first against lefties. But that's the only big question mark, I think, in the starting lineup, for me anyway, is what I'm going to do with that catcher situation. And really, is Caratini going to be somebody I can trade as the season goes on? Or even Amaya, really? I think I would probably want to go with the younger one right now. But we're set at catcher pretty well. Now on the pitching side, the only injury that we really had was with Darvish. He had a little bit of a minimal type injury, kept him out for 4 days. He is still signed for a couple more seasons. Unfortunately, his ratings went down, so he's no longer 3.5 stars. He's a 3-star guy, but he had a great spring. 20 innings, 2.70 ERA, low WHIP, pretty low FIP, although 395 to 270. That leads me to believe. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. 260. Yeah, 260. His ERA was 0.98. I was looking at Kyle Hendricks, who also had a good spring. Darvish had a great spring, and so I hope that he does that during the regular season. That's going to be good. Honeywell looked good, so I think he's set in that 4th spot. And then Jack Patterson looked really good except for the walks, but I'm still going to leave him in there. His FIP wasn't terrible, but if you look, he's competing with Corey Abbott. Corey Abbott had a rough spring, and I think he's, like I was saying, he's going to be the odd man out. I think I need to send him probably back to the minors. Maybe he'll get to start there and pick up a half tick or so in his ratings. The rest of Syndergaard didn't look that great, but his FIP was lower than about 50 points lower than his ERA, so maybe that's a good sign. Wyatt Short looked really good as well, but he's a 2-star pitcher. I can just pretty much rule him out automatically, even though he had a decent year for us last year. Brad Wick, another guy, he has 4 solid pitches. He's a lefty, I think. Yeah, I wouldn't mind having him as a lefty specialist, but his movement and control is so poor that you can see it in his whip numbers here. He's just going to have a lot of people getting on base. He's going to give up more home runs than he needs to, and so I don't foresee him having a future at this team. He's already out of options, so I'm going to waive him, send him back to AAA unless he's picked up. Alec Mills, man, don't know why he keeps doing that. He had a good season for us last year, really, but I don't like his ratings. I mean, his stuff is just about average. His movement is way below average, and that's from my scout, who has a very high accuracy, so I have to pretty much believe my scout. I think he's got to be one of the odd men out too, because just, all things considered, I really believe that it's more important to go with that those ratings over numbers when you've got a short sample size, just like few weeks of spring training. This is another guy, Tyson Miller, looked great in a call-up last year, but has never looked good in the minors for the most part. He was put in a lot of innings though, but spring, but he's going down. So where does that leave me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I got 2 more guys to send down. All right, so Poppin was a guy who I had I picked him up in a trade with Minnesota. I had some, I don't know, good feelings about this guy, so I'm gonna stick with him. He didn't look that great. I traded Brock Holt for him. He didn't look that great when he came over, but he had a good spring for the most part. I don't know. Maybe I should rethink that. 625th. That's not too good. Trevor McGill, he's the other guy who's going down. So I think Corey Abbott. It's Corey Abbott or Sean Poppin. Yeah, I'm going to let Mills ride it out because maybe there's something I'm missing. It's either Mills or Abbott, and OSA doesn't like him as well. Man, dilemmas. Yeah, I think I'm gonna take Mills down. Here's my thinking. He's 30 years old. I don't know how much. Oh gosh, I gotta waive him, but I don't know how much more development you're gonna see from him. Corey Abbott, if he keeps developing, he could. He's just 26. He might be an emergency starter, somebody I can depend on for that. Last year he was. I can see it in the history for the month of April. He got the award in May, but he was the rookie of the month in the National League. So, there is some positives with him. There's some upside to a certain extent. So I'm going to let him stay in there. And that means that we're going to go with a 5-man rotation. On occasion, highest rested. And then he's going to be middle relief. And I think he's going to be the emergency stopper. The emergency. Corey Abbott's going to be the emergency starter. So that's the pitching staff. Like what I see for the most part. Let me look at the ratings to see how that matches. We got a few 2.5 guys here, but that's in Abbott and Patterson, who are young and trying to develop. I'm going to set him to reliever, see if that makes a difference. Not really. He wants to be in the starting rotation. I get that. But for the rest of the staff, it's all 3 stars and above. So I think that's definitely serviceable. And that leaves me with not much unless I'm able to keep those guys. It doesn't leave me too much in terms of what I've got in AAA if I have some injury problems. But we do have Albert Alzolay, who at one time I'm thinking this guy was one of their biggest pitching prospects. He had a big injury from last season. I don't know how that's going to impact him, but he may not be a factor going forward. But he's at any rate, it's going to be 4 months before he gets back. I'm going to get up to opening day, and we'll take a look at a few things that I always like to do when it comes to the opening of the season. So, season expectation from the owner, he just still wants to stay close to a winning record. So, lost Alec Mills, may regret that, but I just feel like I probably should have tried to trade him, but he's coming off a decent year, really. I mean, if we had those numbers again in that bullpen, I would have been really happy. But, I still like what I did. I think I'm fine with that. So the top prospects have been published. None in the top 10 from us, but top minor league systems, we are a little bit below the middle, so that's not too good. Velez, the guy that we picked up as an international free agent, my scout likes him a little bit better than OSA. He's a starting pitcher, but he's still one of the top prospects in the game. And then Brendan Davis, who's still rated, middle of the pack, I guess, 3-star potential. But I do love the way his batting ratings are, the potential there. I mean, he's got a chance to be green across the board. That's pretty solid. Plus, defense is good. Speed is good. I'm really liking him as a future player on this team. And then another thing I like to look at is Garrett Richards. Wow, he was signed. Still a 3.5-star player. I think anybody who signs him is going to have the same experience that we have. But this guy was picked up for $19 million. 1 year, 1 season, $19 million. That's kind of crazy. He's still fragile. He's probably closer to wrecked, really, if you were to be able to see the individual, if you could see the ratings the way they're actually put in there. But another thing I want to look at is the waiver wire. As teams get their rosters nailed down, you'll see a lot of potential steals in the waiver wire, and I'm seeing some good stuff already. I mean, these are 3-star relief pitchers here, but just a two-pitch pitcher there, Joe Kelly. So LA is already wanting to get rid of him. I'm not going to gamble on him based on what he did last year. I think we can ride it out with what we have. There are some pretty good looking pitchers here, though, in terms of ratings. Even I have a hard time saying his name, DeSclafani, 2.5-star pitcher, but he's coming off an 11-win season with Philadelphia. Man, some good looking pitchers there, no question about that. But on the batter side, Reese McGuire, wow. That's kind of a shocker. I mean, this guy is a great defensive catcher, 3-star rated. Man, he should be a starter. I'm not sure why they did that. I mean, is Toronto that set for catching? Who do they have as catcher? Oh, Danny Jensen. He is really good. He's even better. I can see that. But Oh, and this guy's pretty good too offensively. But I would trade that guy before I would waive him. I mean, that's really that's hardcore to do that. So what happened to him? Did somebody already try to pick him up? He's already gone from the list there. Oh, that's free agents. Crap, sorry. So Reese McGuire, some 2.5-star guys here, but I'm really big on the contact rating. I'm looking for 50 or above most every time. So I don't think anything there is going to help us out. I really think outside of Hayward, I mean, I think we're set in that outfield. I mean, I like what we got going, so I'm gonna let it ride. So that's some good guys out there, but I'm gonna take a pass on it for now. And then preseason predictions. So you got Tampa Bay, New York. Although with these predictions, New York wouldn't make it. You got Tampa Bay winning, Cleveland and Minnesota making the playoffs out of the East or Central, and then Oakland and Houston in the West. So Oakland is expected to have a good year. But then individually, Guerrero predicted to have monster year for him, 50-plus home runs. Trout, another good year for him. He won the MVP last year pretty handily. I think that line is better than any numbers he's going to put up in his career, but that was a great season for him. Let's see, pitching wise, Bieber, Shane Bieber, another good year. I think he's won. Yep, he won the Cy Young last year as well. Had a great year. All right, nothing really out of the ordinary there. And then in the National League, we are predicted to finish second to the Cardinals and have the best record in terms of the wild card. So I would be happy with these predictions. We'd be back in the playoffs, probably go up against Milwaukee or San Diego at home if this stays true. I would love that to be the way the season turns out. I don't think we're going to catch the Cardinals. They're really stacked, but I think we can be competitive for the wild card for sure. And then individually, do we have any batters? Not really. Bellinger, of course, just tearing it up and out of the park, 21. Expected guys in that list, nothing out of the ordinary. Then on pitching side, Syndergaard expected to win 15, have a pretty high ERA, but that's doable for me. If he gives us 15 wins, I'm cool with that. That's the only player though we've got showing up there in the top performers, but I do like that record prediction. I mean, I would definitely be happy with that, and I think we have balance on this team. More so than we've had since I started this playthrough. I know we had the big stars when I did start with Baez and Chris Bryant, but I feel like we did what we had to do, or I did what we had to do to get this team in a good spot for long term. And so now this could be the beginning of it, I'm hoping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in the episode here, I'll come back and we'll play through that first season or first month or so of the season, see what kind of start we get off, and then I'll just go from there for the rest of the season. But as always, I appreciate you guys' support. I hope you're enjoying this playthrough, and stay with me again until we get a good winner in Chicago, hopefully a World Series winner. And I will see you next episode.